There we go. All right, Tim, go ahead and open it up. Let's see what we got. Why are you dumping the rye on the ground, you might ask? Well, this is what's got to happen. Pumpkin seeds.
Lots of them.
Wow.
And corn.
Yeah. Okay, so, yeah.
I guess there'll be random pumpkins growing out in the
No,
field.
we should get these. These seeds are for, pumpkin pie. This is, so what happened with this, and it's not a problem because this is cover crop. Where I got this rye from, they cleaned pumpkin seeds for his uncle. If you are familiar with Frank Kreider, Frank Kreider's, he sells fertilizer and whatever. And well, we used fertilizer, but he got into the pumpkin pie processing business, and his nephew at Lee Brook Ag cleaned the pumpkins. And he says, "Oh yeah, there's going to be pumpkin seeds in there. I don't know, is that going to be a problem?" I'm like, no, not at all. It's cover crop, and besides, who cares? Because it's just going to rot in the ground anyway. So, do you have the spreader ready? I'll run some of this out, and we'll just scoop it up and put it in. It's the best thing we could do. We don't care if we get a little dirt in it because it'll go through the spreader and spread anyway, because again, it's just cover. All right.
Yep.
So there's pumpkin seeds in there. This load of rye seed was 15,700, I think, for this load. It was stupid expensive. Came out of Ontario, Canada. It's actually really nice seed. Well, I think it's nice. Well, let's go. I'm gonna start it up and run it out. Get your spreader over here. Yeah. Okay. Here she comes. It's all gonna come out. We'll just run a little bit out, and he'll scoop it up. I don't care one way or the other. We're gonna spread a fair amount of it today, and hopefully a fair amount of it today. And a little bit of dirt ain't gonna hurt, and a little bit of waste isn't gonna hurt either. Ain't gonna matter too much. He's gonna get that. I'm gonna go ahead and yeah, I was just gonna dump it right on the ground, but I thought, you know what, at $15.50 a bushel, that's a lot to do to it. Anyways, I'll run the skiddly skid steer here, and yeah, let me lock this up here. Why in the heck? Here it is. All right. So I'm running a VT right now. I'll give you a shot behind me. Running about 10.6 miles an hour. That's what I got the tractor set up for, 10.6 mile an hour. Running a 3-degree angle on the blades. The reason I'm doing that is because we've got rye spun on here, and I don't want to go over it twice. I just want to get it dirtied up a little bit more aggressively dirtied up than it would be if I had run them in a straight angle. So as you can see, I have a skipper there, but you can see that it really doesn't do much. All it does is cuts a slot, and I've got it set to about 1.25 inches into the ground, cuts a slot, and then the tine bars kind of stir that soil up a little bit. Oh, what the heck here? Yeah, I'm gonna have to odd angle on that thing there. So the tine bars, they stir the soil up a little bit, and you know, incorporate the rye seed in the way I want it to be incorporated. When I do the roller crimper kind of sort of thing that I'm going to be doing in the spring on this rye, if I do it on this rye, I'll probably do it on another other farms. I think this farm here, I'm just going to let it alone and just have rye for cover crops. I'll combine this rye because this corn here, the drought took it all. There was nothing left here. The drought totally wiped me out. You can see a couple of ears here and there. That's about it. So, you know, as things go, you just kind of got to roll with the punches in farming. If you're not accustomed to losing things in your life, you know, farming is not for you. If you think of money as money and not just numbers, farming is probably not going to be for you either. We live on a minimalist income, to be quite honest with you. It's not like we're making millions and millions of dollars on our crops. Now, we handle millions and millions of dollars, but I gave up considering the money that we make or handle in those numbers. I gave up thinking of that as actually money. I just consider them dollar bill, you know, numbers, just numbers. So as long as the numbers have a positive signal in front of it, then I'm good. If it doesn't, then you need to rethink what you're doing, because you're not gonna be happy. Your life is gonna be miserable, actually. So there's plenty of people that are like, how can you deal with all the money that you spend on the things that you spend it on? And you know, you make like $1.5 million, and by the time it's done, you only show like you've made $30,000-$40,000, you know, in that year. Well, sometimes that's the way it is, and that's what I'm trying to alleviate on some of this ground. It's you know, the profit margin needs to be more than that 1/100th of a percent or that 1/10 of the money that you're making, or 1%, not even, 1%, 1 or 2%. That profit margin is way too thin. So yeah, and that's it. Now this is just making a seed bed. When I go through this in the spring with this vertical tillage machine back here, when I go through this ground in the spring, I will not have the tine bars engaged, and I will have 0 angle on the blades. 0 angle. There's just no need to angle the blades. I'm just going to be cutting straight slots. I will be cutting them deeper than what I'm doing right now, because they'll just be straight slots, and the whole point of that is to actually it's not like I'm not tilling the soil per se. I mean, technically it is, but it's not turning the soil. What it is doing is just loosening up. I'm going to plant my corn 2.5 inches deep, like I would normally do. But in that 2.5 inch depth, I want the vertical tillage machine to have loosened that soil at that same depth. So that's approximately what I'm going to set my my vertical tillage machine up to do, is 2.5 to 3 inches of depth. so that it cuts down in there. It doesn't turn the soil, just a straight slice. It will allow the soil to dry out just a little bit better and in the heavy cover crop, and it will allow for the seedling, that new seed corn, to come up easily. You know, that's part of a lot of this stuff, is to get your seed to emerge evenly and uniformly. This is across the way. They didn't even combine that. They went in there with a brush hog and cut lanes into the stalks. That's right there is a well, I guess it's now a hunting preserve because there was no corn there at all. None. I thought they had come in with the combine and did some combining, but it looks to me like maybe they did a little bit, but same thing that I had to deal with. Just barren stalks, no ears. I was able to get about 50 bushel out of that, but the rest of this farm, it's a total disaster. We were just so dry, and I didn't have the even emergence that I would have liked to have on it, but you know, sometimes you're the bird, sometimes you're the window. There are some ears here and there, but it wasn't worth the fuel that it would have took to combine it. It was just like, hey, let's get this rye in and get it worked down so that we can, you know, get that cover crop in there. Get that cover crop in there, and we'll lay it flat with the VT and roll it with the VT, crimp it with the VT, and then we'll terminate it about 3 or 4 days after with glyphosate or Roundup for most of you, if you don't know what glyphosate is. But this was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. I planted this and it turned the faucet off. This is very droughty ground. The field on the other side, they're not as droughty. They do have a little bit more moisture. He no-tilled that into rye. I no-tilled mine into standing hay. Yeah, so we were kind of on the same program, but he killed his rye about 2 weeks before he planted it, whereas I never killed it until after I planted it, which planting green to me is a better way of doing things, but what can you say? You know, to each their own. Everybody has their different preferences. I'm just learning to do this in a way that I can have a thicker profit margin, and that's very important to me, is to actually make a profit. But as you can see what I'm running through, Tim's already been here with the rye. He's got that in. I'm hoping that he was able to get it through those corn stalks, you know. If not, it's just going to be really ugly to look at when it's growing. And if it's ugly to look at, I'll just go ahead and lay it flat and put in corn or buckwheat. Yeah, I'm thinking buckwheat. I actually found a guy that wants to buy buckwheat, and I'm thinking that I'm going to probably grow as much as 200 acres of buckwheat. I'm not sure yet. I gotta see what the market bears. And he was buying it from Canada, and if he doesn't have to buy it from Canada, then he can buy it from me, and we can all both make more money. So anyway, yeah, I'll shut up now. All right, so I had my first problem today. It's not really a problem per se, but this valve right here, there's an O-ring in there, and I guess it wasn't put together correctly from the factory that made the valve. Great Plains does not make the valve, but there's an O-ring in there, and I could see a fine mist of oil shooting out of there. So tomorrow I'm just going to unwind this, and I'm going to pull that out and replace the O-ring in it. There's no sense in doing any warranty nonsense. You know, it's kind of pointless, if you ask me, to invoke a warranty for a 39-cent O-ring. They'd probably want to come out and put a new valve on it and all that other shit, and I would just go ahead and tighten everything up. Ah, blinded, just as I didn't want to be blinded too. Shoot. Oh well, let me shut this off for a second. Okay, so it's the end of the day. I don't know what time it is. My wife has called me though, and she's wondering what happened to me. So I guess she must still love me. How you making out? I'm like, I'm doing all right, I guess. You know, it's only 7 o'clock. You know, normally in the summertime, this is when we're just getting going. But anyway, yeah. Thanks for watching, I guess, or maybe I'll just splice this in with a bunch of other stuff and I'll show some more VTing action tomorrow or whatever. Maybe I'll put this camera on the ground and run it over or something.